Alright, so there's been a lot of violence in DC once night came on at the Million MAGA March, as people from Antifa came out, basically assaulting people, and frankly, there's just too many videos to count that I've seen of people being ganged up on, punched and beaten, having liquid being thrown on them, which is hopefully water, and there was also a report of a stabbing, but this is the best they've gotten. It's not surprising, but it should be obvious to people that the initiation of political violence is the last refuge for someone who does not have an intellectual leg to stand on. These people are unlettered and ignorant, and it shows. In too many videos, you hear people groaning in pleasure at the sight of 7 Antifa members ganging up on 1 or 2 people. Now, first of all, that's pathetic in my view. If you're ganging up on people so they don't stand a chance, that is what weak little people do. If you're ganging up on people who are simply trying to walk through a crowd, again, that is what pathetic people do. And what is Antifa beating people up for anyway? Is it truly to secure a Marxist utopia or an attempt to usher it in? Is this the beginning of their attempt to usher it in? Because I can tell them how it's going to end, and it's going to end a lot how it began. As it usually does, in death, suffering, misery, violence, and insanity. Or are they just opportunistic psychopaths? Or perhaps both. I mean, those two things are not mutually exclusive. They may get a rush from harming others, and as I said before, the groans of pleasure you hear from the mob when an individual gets knocked out by a group of them seems to suggest that they do enjoy seeing this violence. And they may think that they're doing a good thing, but they're simply trying to replace a supposedly right-footed boot on your neck with a left-footed boot on your neck, which to any thinking person would not be viewed as two different scenarios in any meaningful sense. But regardless, I've yet to see a Nazi or a white supremacist. I know they exist. I know they crawl out from under their rocks from time to time. They cause some problems and then they go away again. But they just don't pose the threat that Antifa does, and they don't have the numbers Antifa claims they have. Considering Antifa does have some large numbers, they have their tactics, they have their literature, they have their communication channels, they have their networks, and they have their cells. They are a much greater, more organized threat. I haven't seen for well over a year now white supremacists coming out in large numbers terrorizing people. If they were to do that, I wouldn't hesitate to condemn them either. White supremacy and violence in the name of racism is the lowest form of humanity. Most people agree. And it's weird because Antifa is attacking people who would agree with that sentiment as well. But of course they have that you're either with us or against us mentality, as you see in this tweet here. Which leads me to believe that this really is a group, and I've said this before, that this is a group made up of little immature children. They might be older in age, but they're still children in their minds and in their mindset. They may have read the first few pages of Das Kapital, or maybe they read the Communist Manifesto, which is a very short read, so that's easy for them to do. And then their overactive adrenaline gland kicks in, and they think they're doing good by punching some supposed fascist. Which again is odd, as they are of course highly fascistic themselves, or at the very least they make the same terrible mistake fascists do, in which they view individualism as secondary to the group, or to the herd, or to the mob. So even if they are right, and there is this fascist threat right over the horizon, the supposed solution they are proposing is no better. It's still the smashing of individuality, it's still the grotesque and open use of violence, clearly not in self-defense. It's still the gleeful imposition of their will on and over you, whether you like it or not. You're either with them or against them. And since I don't think I'm an unlettered, ignorant person, I try my best not to be. I guess that makes me against them. But that is all for now. Like and subscribe, and take it easy.